Welcome, everyone. And it's late night here in Asia, early morning in the US. It's exciting times now for Leaderonomics. I'm going to be sharing a little bit on the global internship program. And to kick it off, I thought, why not bring a couple of our famous interns of the past, our great interns of the past, to join us as we share and as they share some stories about their internships at Leaderonomics. But more importantly, the importance, I think, of internships in general. Joining me today for the first segment of this show is Ethan Ganes. Ethan, welcome to the show. And Global Internship Program, you intern like what 10 times at Leaderonomics, at least I think. No,
Very
maybe,
close, very close.
pretty close, right? Tell
Yeah,
us a
yeah.
bit about your story and your experience, and what kept you coming.
Okay, my story, to put it very shortly, I started off as someone very curious to learn more about what Leaderonomics does, what management consulting is about, what a social enterprise could possibly do in a landscape like Malaysia. So I did an internship in a gap year that I took actually. So that was the first one. And what happened during that experience is I was exposed to a whole world of continuous learning where people actually cared about me becoming a better individual. And I couldn't help it. I came back another couple of times. I would have been perhaps one of the most famous, maybe one of the more persistent interns. But yeah, I guess that's a snippet of an introduction about myself. I've been with three departments in Leaderonomics, three or four: marketing, the coaching department, the youth team, as well as the corporate side as well. Yeah.
And you also had a bit of experience with Drop Zone, I think, right? Earlier on, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, correct. So Drop Zone was a youth center, an alternative place for youth to come and spend some of their time after school to learn some of leadership skills and some communicate interpersonal skills with our available time. So I was there when I was 14 all the way until 17, 18, and then went on to volunteer with youth camps and doing the own leadership thing with Leaderonomics, and then on to internships.
Okay, so quickly tell us, what's the most insightful insight that you got from your internship or internships, I would say,
Right.
if you could pick one.
Incredibly hard to pick, but the first one that I would pick is that you can learn almost anywhere, all the time, as long as you have the right environment that helps you. So the most beautiful thing that I have been exposed to is that learning principle. Because when you are an intern, the first thing that you think about is you're going to be exposed to some really terrible experiences and whatnot. But in the case of myself, when I was in Leaderonomics, we were asked the question, what do you want to learn first? And then there on, I was able to see that whenever I did a small task or a big task, the question was always asked to me, what did I learn and how can I do it in other settings? I've learned a lot in terms of like how do I do stakeholder management because we were given real programs, real projects that impacted the company. But what it really stuck with me was how can we learn from every single activity that we do? Because now that I've fully entered the working world, I'm in the full workforce. Um, I am also managing interns. I always tell them exactly the same thing, so that learning spirit really stuck with me. Yeah.
All right, and I think one thing you learned, I think it's from Yase, right? How to look like Brad Pitt, right? So we've got one of your fans say, "Love your Brad Pitt looks, bro." So there, tell us what was the most crazy thing that happened in your internship? Was there any like crazy moment that you're like, "Oh my God, I couldn't believe this happened to me"? What was there? I mean,
Right. Most crazy moment. I would think the most crazy moment in a good way was probably when we were told suddenly Roshan set us aside one day and he said, okay, I have this big project for you. I don't know how it's going to work, but I know what I want it to happen. And we're going to do this whole business intelligence center. The 10 of you interns are going to figure out how to make this work in concept and then tell us how we can apply it to our business. It must fulfill criteria A to Z. It's got to be like Q from James Bond informing our team how do we best service our clients. And at first it was like, okay, I get it, this is going to be an assignment like university. But then very soon we were actually interviewing different the business, discovering what are the key value propositions of each part of the process the value chain, and then we had to come up with something and pitch it to first the managers, and then secondly to Roshan and the higher leadership team. So that was increasingly intense. I guess at first I wouldn't say I thought it was a joke, but I thought it was like one of those smaller challenges you throw and you see what they can do with it. But we had times when Roshan would pull us together and say, okay, what is the real progress and what is the real outcome here? I think it was very crazy because we were expected to do something that would eventually lead to someone taking it on as a full-time job.
Yeah,
So that was,
in fact, one of the
yeah,
interns actually became a full time, right? Adriana
yes,
took
yes,
over.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So
correct.
it was good. It was a good jump. So great, Ethan. I'm gonna get you back in a bit, but
Sure.
we're gonna just go to our next person. So thank you so much, Ethan. And I'm gonna invite Evelyn Teh, superstar at PwC, to join us. So Evie, as we affectionately call her, Evie.
Hello,
And I
hello.
remember many late nights in hotels and other events that
Of
we were
course.
when we were doing learning sessions. I do recall one at 12 midnight when there was a crisis and she called. It's like, there's a major crisis here happening at an assessment center that I think Evie was. I believe it was assessment center. I can't remember.
Yes, it was.
I still recall some very engaging, interesting experience, and that was when you were an intern, if I recall. So tell us about your internship experience, and for you, your internship experience translated into taking on some big roles in Leaderonomics after that, right after you graduated, right? So did we just lose Evie there? All right, so we will see if we can get Evie back in a second. Evie, you all right? She just blacked out as I think some of the memories of the past just jolted in and kind of blacked her screen out. But we have one more guest that's going to join us. Oh, Evie's back. All right, so let me get
Yes, I
Evie.
am. Sorry.
Did you just black out because of the sudden torrential memories that
So
hit you and
intense,
like
boss. So intense. Yeah. So
so
intense.
so
So
tell us a bit
intense.
about your internship.
Yeah. It's actually now that I counted, it is about probably 10 years ago. It's 2011 when I did the internship before I went and do my masters in the UK. So, uh, I think I really identify what Ethan mentioned in terms of the seriousness of internship here in Leaderonomics, because it's not gonna be, it's not the simple shredding paper assignment, um pouring tea. It's really leading things on your own, and I think that was very eye-opening for myself. I think I didn't, unlike Ethan, I didn't go for many internship experiences, so I think this one really stuck with me. I think like the assessment center one lah, boss, you brought up. I remember it was as an intern, I was supposed to lead the assessment center, just managing the logistics and stuff. But you know lah, right? We're assessment centers, then the stakeholders will be there, and I think he asked me a very difficult question and which I couldn't answer. So obviously have to hotline lah, boss. And but I did learn at that point of time how do we end up dealing in those sort of crises and how to stay calm, because when it comes, you just have to deal with it, kan? So I thought that really taught me. So the seriousness of internships here in Leaderonomics, and just the vast experiences that you can get. So that time I was in the corporate team, right? That's why doing all the assessment centers, whatnot. But there was also the chance to do youth work. At that time we were a lot smaller. It's 10 years ago, right? So the youth work, being very involved in that in different seasons of that year or the 9 months that was there. And also being able to then dabble in some of the new things. So if I had to take something away from the internship, or describe the internship in one word, it would be intense, and in a good way lah. I think you don't expect internships to be that way, but good, that it really sets you up for the rest of your work life. And to your point, I came back after my masters for the next maybe 3-4 years, I can't remember, to do then different roles in Leaderonomics.
Yeah. So you had I think you ended up with the talent accelerator program, right?
Yeah.
Where
Corporate.
you were kind of designing programs and so on and so forth. So if you look back at that internship, I mean, how did that set you up to where you are today, lah? Essentially, was there some foundational things that were embedded in you at that early stage that enabled you to get clarity on where you wanted to go? Or I mean, how did that transform or turn you into who you are? Was there anything that happened? You want
I
to share?
think it left me with two things: curiosity, and just that courage. So curiosity, because there's just so many opportunities, right? And if you just keep yourself in the intern frame of mind, like, oh, I'm going to do only this item or only this task, then really you lose out a lot. So I think that curiosity has continued. And I think some level of caponess in your corporate world, in your work, really helps, one, like the networking, etc. Then the other one is courage, right? So to that point around dealing with stakeholders, I remember you told me the next day, because you had to deal with the stakeholder, right, the next day, and you said all you did was give him a pao, and he was okay, like not char siu pao or it was char siu pao, but some form of pao, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I think it
Uh,
was 12:30 midnight mama pao or something like that. I
I
can't
cannot
remember.
remember that, but he
Um,
was so fuming angry. So I was like, how on earth do you manage that? And I think it reminds you that you need a level of courage in dealing even with crisis. And that can solve one. Even a pao can solve issue.
so we've got some comments from Gautier. Awesome to see you on LinkedIn, and I see Evie from Cyprus. Or she's off Cyprus, I guess. It says hi Millie, hi Evie, and hi Ethan. So some old friends reconnecting, and so if you just hold on there, I mean, with Ethan, just hold on. I want to get one more person in, and then after this, we want to gather all of y'all, and we're gonna have a powwow together. And I think all three of y'all know each other, right? You're somewhat from, although it was slightly different eras. You kind of had timing where you guys are intertwined together. So we'll get the gang back together in a second. So hold on there, Evie. I'm gonna introduce our third superstar, and the third one is in Singapore. We'll forgive her for being in Singapore. But outside of that, she's a wonderful person, and I know I gave her a lot of well, I shouldn't use that word, right? It's called SHIT, but while she was an intern there, and but I think we did some crazy stuff. Miliong from EY in Singapore, she's was an intern at Leaderonomics and then took on a full-time role heading up our assessment work. You want to tell us about your internship, because I thought it was really a crazy internship. It started off like like small little things, and then it just morphed into a major
into a
amazing.
full-time role. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Tell us.
character building, that's what it is.
So tell us about your story.
Sure. So I actually had I guess a slightly different internship experience because I came in on a part-time internship. So I was actually in my last semester of uni. I only had like 1 or 2 days of classes a week, and I needed something to do for the last 3 days. So I think, I stumbled upon Leaderonomics, and then I think what was great was we were willing to kind of take on a part-time internship, which not every company is willing to do that, right? And I think that is a very early experience of sort of flexible work arrangement, which is, the hype nowadays. That's what everybody wants nowadays. And I was able to kind of live it very early on in the internship. And so I interned with the assessments department at that time, not knowing what assessments was, and then kind of fell into it and then enjoyed it so much that I ended up staying on as a full-timer right after I kind of graduated uni. And because I was doing part-time, plus at that time I was working with Elisa, who was heading the assessments unit, who also worked quite flexibly as well. I actually remember not going to the office for like many weeks, to the point that when I first met some people from the office, they were confused who I was, and they were like, "What do you mean you're an intern? Like, we've never heard of you before." And I think, if I'm not wrong, somebody took a photo of me, sent it to the team chat, and was like, "Has anybody seen this person before?" And they were like, had no idea who I was. So quite an interesting experience, but obviously a good one, because I ended up joining the company and kind of working for another couple of years as well.
Yeah, and this was in 2013, I think, right?
Yes,
Or
about
14.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is many years before COVID and work from home became the norm.
correct.
But your internship was quite interesting, because you started out with Elisa trying to incubate a business, like, essentially. I mean, we had a bit of an assessment work, but it was not really something we did on what I call a normalized basis, right? It was
Yep.
a new product, and you got an opportunity. I think Elisa moved on to head up the corporate team. at some point, and you and I guess myself, we were kind of grappling and trying to figure out to get a customer on board. And as an intern, you managed to, I think it was during your internship where you won this huge deal, right? It was in the millions, if I'm not mistaken. And essentially, suddenly you had all this work that we had to execute on, right? You want to tell us about that experience?
Yeah, so I think that actually happened just after my internship, and I had sort of converted to a full-time position, but still, considerably very early on in my career, right? Within the first 1 or 2 years, and I worked closely with Elisa at that time, even in my internship, because we were growing that part of the business, and it was such a small part of the business as well that it was me and her, right? And then there was nobody else who would do it. So anything she would do, I would do. Anything I would do, she would do. And I think that sort of taught me very early on that just because you're an intern doesn't mean that you do like Ethan said, right? The photocopying and all that. That's not true, right? You're here to do real work, and you get the chance to kind of do that real work, and it can snowball very quickly. Like you said, we won those contracts, and then we were like, oh well, I guess we have to deliver all this work now. But it's great experience, and you get this experience very early on as well.
Yeah, fantastic. So there's a question from the audience. Esther asked you, hey, Millie, what would you say was the one key takeaway you got from that internship that impacted your life?
Sure. Thanks, Esther, for that question. I think, like I mentioned, right, it's really that just because you're an intern and someone is young or new doesn't mean that they don't have something that they can contribute, or that you don't have a role to play. And I think I carry that through nowadays as well, where I work with people and interns, young associates and all that as well, and kind of treating them as equals and giving them those same opportunities that I got very early on, so that they can also grow and develop. Yeah.
Okay, and so Millie, we're going to bring the rest of them in, but while we wait for the rest of them to join us, Yvonne really wanted to say something, but she couldn't get here, so she made a little video for us. So we're just going to show that video from Yvonne.
Hi, my name is Yvonne. So I was an intern here, and currently I came back again to be a part-timer. My experience here has been really insightful, and mainly because the culture and the people here are really, really nice. So in Leaderonomics, people here are always wanting to learn, and that gives me the attitude of to willing to learn anything and everything, because in Leaderonomics, nothing is constant. So change is constant, and I learned to be agile, also to be adapt in a new situation. Right now, I'm currently studying while I'm working, and it gives me the benefit of learning in Leaderonomics that I cannot get from classroom. So I think that Leaderonomics has given me that opportunity, and I'm really grateful for it. What I like about Leaderonomics is definitely the culture and the people here. The people here are always wanting to learn, and I think that's a really good attitude to have. And besides that, I also love the food here. So there's always free food here, and free food is amazing. So that's, I think, in Leaderonomics, I'm really grateful for.
All right, so we've got Evie, Ethan, and Millie back with us. Welcome, guys, and great to have you all back with us. And there's a couple of questions from different folks who have been asking some questions on YouTube. We've got someone has asked, what's the biggest learning you received from the internship that you still apply till today? So is there any lessons that you learned that you still apply today? Anyone want to go?
I can go.
I think
Sure. Go ahead, Evie. Yep.
Not a specific skill, but just being bold and trying to do different things. Like sometimes if we look at a task at work, it feels very impossible, right? It feels like you cannot get around it. There's so many red tape, etc. But I think what I've learned from economics is you see what can work first. You think about it, then you'll figure it out along the way. It doesn't have to be perfect at the start, right? Because sometimes we think so much and then you end up not doing it. So I think that's the key biggest learning I've taken from my internship experience. I still apply today.
Sorry, Millie, you wanted to say something, right? Or was
No, I think Ethan was gonna go.
Okay, sure.
Our voices
go
sound
ahead, Ethan.
similar. I can understand the confusion. Let's see. For myself, what really stuck with me is the method of leadership, or the way our leaders take the time to mentor people. So what I've really fallen in love with through all the camps, all the time at Drop Zone and whatnot, is how Leaderonomists tend to see their people as individuals who want to grow, who came to learn something, and can be developed. So I keep this in mind very strongly because it feel this huge love for me wanting to help people grow. Wherever I can, I take part in mentorship programs. Currently, where I work, I have the pleasure of running the internship program there. And so when we bring people in, I try and look at it from that exact same way. How can we curate something, anything that we do, because I work in HR now as well, work with university students. How can I ensure that it's this person's growth first that helps drive our employer brand? How can I ensure this person's growth is in line with what we want? So I think putting that growth focus, like sitting and making the time to spend learning what they want to do and how can we help them get there at the same time, because Leaderonomics was somehow able to do that, right, and still keep everything running. So my whole takeaway from this whole experience with Leaderonomics has been, just because you want to keep the business running doesn't mean you forget that people want to grow. So that has really stuck with me in every person that I work with.
Fantastic. Millie, you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything Evie and Ethan has said as well. But I think another thing I learned very early on was that, when you have passion for the work and you believe in the meaning and the purpose, I think that people will go, the extra effort that it requires to get something done, right? I remember very early on, because I was quite new to Leaderonomics, quite new to kind of the vision, the mission of the company as well. And I actually used to tell people, I was like, wow, everybody here is an optimist. It's kind of scary. Like I'm naturally quite a realistic person, quite maybe pessimistic as well. But I was like, wow, everybody loves their job because everybody really believes in the mission. And I think that's very early on something that I learned that is useful. And now, when I do work that requires to think about culture, purpose, and all that, I realize actually it's true, right? They're not just words on a wall. If you really believe in it, it will take you far.
And one of the things I think is all for all of y'all. I mean, I'm not sure whether when you were interns, there were many interns outside of Malaysia that were part of the internship program. One of the things we've realized, especially with COVID and the things that are happening, right? Because we're all working from home most of the time, it doesn't stop us from actually employing or bringing interns from anywhere in the world, which is what triggered this entire dialogue. Like essentially, we're saying, look, we don't want to just hire Malaysians, right? We want to hire interns from anywhere in the world. And we because we got a couple of folks that are like, hey, I'm in UCL or I'm in a Duke in the US, and I'm taking a gap year and I realize I can't travel. Can I come intern with you guys? And we realized, yeah, of course. It's open, right? I mean, generally speaking, have figured out how to master work from home, and that's really the essence of what today is, because we wanted to launch this new internship program. So we're still running an internship program in Malaysia where we bring in the people who are residing in Malaysia, but we're launching a separate internship program called the Global Internship Programme, where the intent is to bring in people across the globe, and they do special projects over 12 weeks or 15 weeks. And what happens is, sometimes it's hard to pay people, for internships. So what we're doing, we're going one step further. We're saying, look, if you do a really good job in the internship, we will pay you in ownership in the company, right? We will give you shares in the company. So that's the launch of this global internship program. I know somebody asked here, is this a good opportunity for somebody who hasn't interned before? Absolutely. And what I'm, I mean, just very quickly, what are your thoughts on, how maybe I should ask you guys, how would we create that Leaderonomics culture on a global basis virtually? Is that possible? Is that something you think that's possible? Maybe Evie, you want to go first? You have to unmute yourself. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I think it is possible, and if there is anything that will help that culture go beyond, like going to the virtual worlds and stuff, it will still be the people. I know it sounds super cliche, right? But I think making sure that they are surrounded by the people that will help them do the work and know the purpose of them doing the work will make a difference. So just because they are virtual doesn't mean they only interact one person. or just maybe the direct supervisor. I think just being able to include them in the environment may be a challenge, but will really bring out the essence I think of having an internship in Leaderonomics so that people can.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Just your final thoughts. If you were to give one piece of advice to interns, and later on, I'm going to get the advice of my first boss when I was an intern, Mike Petrucelli. He's going to come. He's going to come and share some of his words in a bit. But we'll keep that to the end. But if you guys could leave one piece of advice for interns, what advice would you give interns that potentially could be part of this global? These are global interns, right? People from all over the world who'll be interning with Leaderonomics beginning in a couple of weeks' time. What advice would you give them?
I can go first. I think the best advice really is just kind of be curious. Ask the questions that you want to ask. Learn what you want to learn. Just be super busybody about like what's everyone doing. Can I kind of like meddle around with it as well so that you can kind of learn. But I think another thing is to speak to the people who are working there. Right, you're there to be exposed and to learn about different things, and you can only do that through other people, and you kind of absorb their lived experiences as well. Even if you don't work with them directly, just go and talk to them, right? And the most you make a new friend, you learn something new about somebody, but sometimes you learn so much just from that and beyond just the kind of work that you're doing on the day-to-day.
Great. Ethan?
I would say for me, what I would recommend if you're interning in a place like Leaderonomics, especially, is to first understand the business. Like, what does it do? What is its purpose? How does it function? And then ask yourself what you can possibly experience in that span of time. Because I know most Leaderonomists, they're all about if you want to learn something and you want to be involved, you can hop on board and give that a shot. So once you figure out what Leaderonomics does, any area which you want to explore, ask for it, and most likely you will get some exposure. And that carries very far, especially when you've got, like you mentioned earlier, the people there willing to guide you to that destination. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Understand the business and actually ask for that opportunity. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Fantastic. And Evelyn?
So for me, I think as an intern in Leaderonomics or elsewhere, ask questions, fail and learn fast, and trust that you can make an impact even if you're an intern. You really got to trust that for yourself, and then you can bring something to the table.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your time, and feel free to hang on. We're going to talk a little bit about the Global Internship Program, where it's going to be open up for the globe. But as we transition to that part, I just want to show about a minute of what this great YouTube video of one of our interns, Monica, who in an exit presentation, one of the things we do is an exit presentation where you have to prove that you did a good job during your internship, right? And I think some of you went through that. But Monica decided that she wanted to make her exit presentation video. So we'll just show the first one or two.
We feel like full-timers. We have done so much that 12 weeks feels like half a year, but at the same time, it has also flew by really fast. Without further yapping, terimalah my wow moments throughout these 12 weeks.
So if you want to catch these wow moments, we'll put a link of the video. It's on YouTube, and you can check it out. Monica's exit presentation and many other internship experiences at Leaderonomics. I'm going to introduce our head of our Global Internship Program, who's basically the person in charge of the Global Internship Program, Andrea Chu. He's just joined us. Andrea, I think Andrea just got up, right? Because she works on a different clock from many of us, which is fine at Leaderonomics, right? But Andrea, you want to tell us a bit about the Global Internship Program? I'm just gonna show a couple of things. Maybe you can walk us through this Global Internship Program. So take it away, Andrea.
All right, cool. So you've heard from the past interns who are really, really good at, asking questions and being very curious. So with this very quick, short little presentation we put together, there are three main questions we'll look into, right? But basically, the first one is like, you're basically stuck wherever you are. And with the COVID and all this pandemic and everything, you mostly can't travel. And then you can't go to like your dream country, you take a gap year. You can't like, imagine like I was in some like really exotic country, which you usually would do for your gap year and stuff like that. And COVID is completely a game buster. I mean, most of us have like travel plans. We had so many programs that we wanted to do, but to be honest, there's always a bright side here, right? And we always want to look at the best things that we can get. All right. So if you go on to the next slide, you basically get a cultural exchange with us, but at the same time, this is a fully remote team. With Leaderonomics, we've been practicing work from home ever since early 2020, ever since the COVID has hit, and remote work is typically now our norm. We've not really gone back to the office, except for some of us who really want to, catch up with all the employees and have our chit chats in the pantry and all that. We've gone back. But basically, the most of us, like 90% of us, have been working from home ever since. So we're very good with remote work, with virtual online meetings, those kind of things, right? And moving on, why is this great for you? There's two key things that I want to highlight here. Right? One is performance. With Leaderonomics itself, we are very flexible, as you've heard. We don't follow a certain norm where we work from 9 to 5. You sit at a computer all day for like 8 hours, 9 hours. We really appreciate people who actually value performance, and we, produce the good quality work at our own pace, but at, very expected deliverables that's been set. So that kind of performance value that is brought in Leaderonomics is something really great, because I would think that, with this COVID and this pandemic, when you actually graduate and you actually go into the workforce, work from home is most likely the policy that's going to happen. And a lot of companies have adopted and adapted to this as well. The second is time zones, right? So you'll be surprised that some of us in Leaderonomics wake up at, like boss say, like 8 p.m., which is Malaysian time at night, and we start working until like 3, 4 a.m. because that's the best, most productive time of their day, right? And it's okay, because to be honest, at the end of the day, like I say, we value performance more than just saying like, hey, you're 9 a.m., are you not awake yet? Reply my emails, reply my texts. We don't do that, because we have this certain understanding that, okay, this is the most productive time you have, and this is the most productive you can be. Let's work it out. Let's communicate. Let's, be on time with that. Yeah, so that's great. And I understand time zones is another huge thing, especially if you're not like in the same time zone as us. That'd be great. So the next question is, why Leaderonomics, right? So if you don't know Leaderonomics, just a brief overview. We value people most importantly, as you heard from the ex-interns, the very culture of Leaderonomics, the very heart is in our people. And yes, once a Leaderomer, always a Leaderomer, no matter where they are, where they go, we embody these values that is being incubated in Leaderonomics itself. But basically, our mission or our vision is basically to grow people into leaders, to build communities of love, and eventually transform nations. And it's great if we have global interns like you who are doing just that in your own communities. And I think that's amazing, why this program is really interesting. And we are just so excited to have so many other Leaderomers all around the world focusing on this kind of same mission. And just to give you a bit of background, we've been more than 12 years in leadership with development. We also have different businesses in our ecosystem, and we are also a very safe, challenging, and a bit crazy environment, but I think you'll have a lot of fun with us. All right, so just to also give you a breakdown of our businesses, we have 3 core areas. We have the digital business, which we constantly provide infrastructures globally, not just to Malaysians, obviously. And this is where they focus on learning engagement. I'm not going to go very detailed in these things, as you can search on the internet and find out what exactly our digital business goes into. But I'll move on to the next, which is what we call the heart of Leaderonomics, which is community. I'll go into corporate first, right? So corporate is basically, we focus a lot on our talent development, talent acceleration, and in all forms of levels, from, interns, management trainees, up to the C-suites in various industries. And I'm not going to sell too much about these businesses, but you can definitely read how many awards we have won in these areas. And we are pioneers of this, something called talent acceleration programs, which you've heard some of the pioneers of assessment centers from just now, Millie, Evie, Ethan. They have been in these little business units that have grown so big here. All right, and lastly, I'll go into the community side of things. That is basically our heart, no matter, right? Okay, so this is really cool. no matter where we are situated in Leaderonomics, whether we work with the business of corporate training or we work in digital business, at the end of the day, all of us constantly remember that we want to give back to the community. And especially for those who cannot afford it or for those who need it the most, right? And we want to empower these people most likely. And all of us always volunteer, and all these interns and all of us, even those who have left Leaderonomics, once a Leaderomer, always a Leaderomer, they always come back to work with us, especially in this area. We've seen a lot of people come back, and that is just really key to us. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next one. So I think the next question is to ask, right? I think what's the next question? What will you experience? We're not going to very detail there because sometimes curiosity and a bit of mystery is really cool, but we're going to focus on two things basically, right? Project focus and structured frameworks. Project focus simply because we no longer see that focusing on one function alone is going to be very useful for you, right? Simply because the ecosystem and the climate of work has really changed. And people need very fast transferable skills, right? For example, being able to manage stakeholders very well, being able to project manage also very well. Those areas are really key. And these are things that you can use anywhere you go eventually. If let's say you do want to go into a very specific function as well, these skills are key, not only for you to run your work well, but also have perspective. You have a perspective on how things can be done better effectively. And also because you will be mentored and all this by a lot of people. And I'm going to structured frameworks, right? It's basically we focus on how do we give you an experience that is structured, because we know that the project focus is quite broad. You have a lot of skills that learn, a lot of skill sets, but we also want a bit of structure so that you have an opportunity to really dive deep into something you want as well. And this is why we have mentors from all over, and not just internal mentors from Leaderonomics who are subject matter experts, but we have people like the CEO of Citibank. We have CEOs from different industries, and they're all friends from obviously Roshan and people we worked with before, and they're very willing to mentor you in different areas that you're keen on. Let's say you're very interested in banking or finance or financial services, or even as simple as how do I become a CEO at the end of the day, right? You can just have a chat with Roshan or even other CEOs and like, how do I get to where you are at? And you have direct access to them, and that's really key as well. So that's the learning journey that you will get, and it's continuous. We will push you and we will give you all these free access to our learning platforms that we use ourselves and digital simulations that we also use ourselves, right? So those are areas that you will experience in this internship. It's super packed. Definitely, you're not going to be very chillax all the time. You will be pushed to your limit, but I think that's the beauty of it. All right, so I'm going to go to the last question. I don't remember the last question. I'm going to go back to the first slide, boss.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the last question is, trying to remember now.
Yeah. 1 second. It's just it's not.
No worries.
Yeah. Not moving.
So this is basically all the writing we've written on why project focus and also structured framework. We wanted to pair these for you in your experience. I think the last question was what exactly you will experience in that 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep. So I think maybe what we can do is maybe you can share a little bit, your take in terms of what, because I noticed there's a couple of comments there's coming up. I've got a person who asked, how will this global internship help students for the future workforce? Maybe we can take some of these questions first, and then let's jump into how to apply for this internship and what's this internship all about. Yep.
Cool. All right. So I think Nadira, thanks for the question. You asked how will this global internship help students for the future workforce? I think I've mentioned before the fact that we focus on projects and managing and juggling all these skill sets and developing them as you go and learning on the ground is going to help you with your future. Like I mentioned, the pandemic has really changed the climate. We've seen this with not just interns, but generally people who are working, right? The workforce currently. we are basically pushed into a corner where we have to evolve. We're like Pokemon, you have to faster evolve and turn and become better, and you're basically fighting a whole bunch of other people who are also trying to evolve. Now,
Sure.
people who have no adaptability or being able to solve problems, which is very key skill that is, in the research currently, what is the number one key skill that organizations are looking for in their workforce is actually problem solving. Because obviously with the pandemic, everything is going to be a problem, and you just got to figure out, how do I turn this digital? How do I make people engage online? How do I, make sure my workers are actually working at home? It's all these areas that crop up, right? And this will actually empower you and also upskill you to that level that you're able to be quick on your feet. You're able to find out problems and also solve them quick, effectively, and all these things. So I think that's very key. And the key part that is partner with this. Yes, sorry.
No. So I mean, this global internship program. I guess many people are excited. I mean, that it's open to anybody in the world, right? Anyone. So as long
Yeah.
and is there a criteria? I mean, they have to be university students, or how does it work? I mean, talk us through.
Right.
Maybe tell us
Okay.
who can apply.
Okay, so if you're a university student, you can apply all over the world, anywhere, right? You just gotta fill in an application form, and the process is that we'll get back to you in the 5 days. We go through an interview just to have a chat with you and understand, like, not just on paper you've sent in to us. That's very key. And then all those things happen, and then after the interview, we will give you a decision where you make your decision as well if you want to join us after discovering who we really are and all these things. And then we will begin the internship. I think we are supposed to begin in June 21st, if I'm not mistaken. Then onboarding begins, and then you will last for 3 months with us.
So, Andrea, one of the things I thought was very interesting is fully remote. There's mentorship. There's free access to a lot of top leaders. Potentially, you can be a shareholder of the company. Lots of projects you mentioned. Talk to us about this. If I'm sitting in a country, let's say I'm in the US or I'm in Europe, there's going to be some time zone challenges. There's going to be some cultural challenges. How do you expect us to work with an organization out in Malaysia? How does it work?
How does it work? I think the key component here is basically the communication that we will have between us, and also the environment that we will start to provide for you, right? We are not just gonna drop a bomb and you're like, hey, go handle this project, and leave you to drown in the sea, right? Because we understand that it's not easy to have remote work, and especially if you are completely from a different culture, and you don't have amazing food like Malaysians, but those kind of things, right? We want to guide you along the way, and we just won't leave you hanging. I think that's very key. You will be surrounded by coaches as well, who will take you through, whatever you're struggling with in internship, or things that you are doing amazing with internship. I think that's very key.
So one thing I noticed is there's the internship is tagged the 3 A's, right? Aspiration, ambition, and agility. Briefly tell us what does this mean?
I don't want to give everything away, but these are 3 key areas that we find that is very important at this point of time, right? We have aspirations, we have dreams, we have the ambition to achieve something, but most of us sometimes don't dig deep enough to figure out what exactly is this aspiration about. And the ex-interns just now have mentioned things like purpose and meaning in your work is very key. And if you don't find it now, or at least learn how to find it and ask yourself these questions, right, you're just going to be very lost when you get into the workforce. And I can speak from experience. That's how I really felt, because I thought I had this dream, but when I went into workforce and I didn't dig deep enough, I was lost. So that's one. Now, ambition is basically your desire and determination, right? We can all be very excited and have all these big dreams that we have, but at that point of time, a lot of us feel burnt out, and we don't know how do we get back up. How do we have resilience in doing what we want to do in alignment with the purpose and the meaning, right? And agility is very key, right? That's very a big component in Leaderonomics. We're all very agile people. We shift all the time. As you join us, you'll see that we change all the time. We're constantly evolving. And this ability to move quickly and adjust to new conditions effectively, that's also very key. Because you can change as much as you want, but if you're not fast enough and you're not effective, then you might not be very successful. So these are
Okay.
3 areas that we will gradually build.
So if I were to summarize, right, it's basically you get to meet a lot of ambitious people, and young and talent people like yourself. I mean, it's opportunity and across the world, right? You don't just meet people that are in your neighborhood, but across the world. You also get to be mentored by some amazing leaders and CEOs and key opinion leaders across the globe, right? Especially out here in Southeast Asia and Asia. So getting to see a whole different part, you get to deep dive. I think you'll have from what I was reading, you get to go deep into each country, go into Indonesia for a week, go into India for a week, go into Thailand for a week, go into Malaysia for a week, and you'll be given lots of projects, very complex, very focused projects, where you get to learn stuff that you and get to do stuff that you won't ever imagine. And I think very interestingly, you also get access to platforms like Nicole and simulations and actual learning from the experts. So you have weekly classes almost, right? So it's like summer school with practical applications, and then you get to create content, you get to drive sales, lead teams, and also forge partnerships. I think the most exciting, right, is that you earn rewards, recognition, and then you get a chance to be own shares, right? And when we become a billion-dollar company, it's almost like the people who own Bitcoin like 10 years ago, and suddenly they're all like, oh, so you get the opportunity to be part of it. And I think what I find very interesting is that, as the interns were saying, and many of their past interns who've now become very successful, they all have this heart that once they're a leaderomer, they're always a leaderomer. And I guess interns who join us, there's always the belief that once a leaderomer, always a leaderomer. So with that, how do we apply? I mean, is there an application? Where do we apply? And how do we sign up? Where do we sign up? Right, the $1,000,000 question.
Right. Yeah, so the sign up links are actually on the comment section. You can have a look, but it's basically tinyurl.com/LGIP2021. If you want more information as well, it is tinyurl.com LGIP information, right? So you get all these things before you decide to, but by all means, we are also free to get emails from you directly, but our application closed on the 8th of June. So gotta get fast, and we really hope to see you all coming in.
And we're only going to take globally, I think, about 20 to 30 people, right? So it's going to be a limited batch this round, very focused. Each of y'all will have 20 or 30 mentors that will be signed up for you guys. And at the same time, every week there's fireside chats, there's country deep dives, and a whole bunch of other learnings that comes in addition to the project. So it sounds really good. I wanna end by sharing a little thought from my old boss. See, when I was 19, I worked in a gas station in the US, petrol station, and until I became the assistant manager of the gas station, right? And then I somehow got an internship with a big company called General Electric, and I thought, wow, and they assigned me this guy who everyone like, oh my God, you got Mike, of all people. Why Mike, right? Mike's a really tough guy, and he became my manager. But what I learned so much. I mean, I always say that. I told Mike this. I say, Mike, you're a guy who cares and you dare, right? More dare. But I know you care, right? And I think that internship set me up a lot, because it taught me that internships are not just for you to enjoy and be taken care of someone, but also to be dad to make a difference, dad to do stuff. So I'm going to end with the last about a minute or so, a conversation. Mike shared. I asked him, hey, Mike, what would you want to say to these interns out there, or potential interns who want to come sign up for us? Here's Mike Petroselli with some final advice to each and every one of us.
Hey, Roshan, Michael, I hope you're well. Just quick thoughts on the internship program. I think the most exciting things that I've learned with the internship program is having students with diverse skill sets work with the different leadership people. So I had 7 interns with all different perspectives, from finance to marketing to sales, interests, customer service, product development. And my CEO and I kind of split up the responsibilities. I ended up taking the lion's share of it. But I think the best opportunity, if I was an intern today, is to consider working in a startup environment, working close to the people that make things happen, and doing anything and everything for them, with them, and just keep taking on more responsibility. So that was something I encouraged the interns to do. Some responded really well. Some just did what was asked of them. Some went above and beyond, which I thought was really awesome. And there are three that I continue to work with, even outside the company, to guide and coach them. So maybe you can share something of that nature. I think internship programs are wonderful, and I think there's a lot to be said about the opportunities to learn and to grow and to meet great people. Take care. See you soon. Thank you.
All right. So thanks, Andrea. Thanks for that. And if you have not checked it out, go and look up the URL, tinyurl.com, LGIP info, or go to LGIP 2021. If you are a student, if you wanna experience something very unique for 3 months, be on a global internship, work for a company in Southeast Asia, be as Mike said, be in a startup environment with startup conditions, and be able to potentially earn some shares in the process. Check out the Leaderonomics Global Internship Program. So with that, thanks everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any comments or questions, always free, shoot them in my LinkedIn, or if you're watching on YouTube, shoot them in the comment section and we'll get back to you. With that, take care everyone. Goodbye, and we wish you all the best in your leadership journey. Have a great day, and bye-bye.